Have you been thinking about investing in real estate for a while now? Maybe you've read a few books, you've listened to podcasts, maybe you've analyzed a few deals, but for some reason, you still haven't taken action. And it's probably not because you need more information. You already know enough to get started. So what's really holding you back? We usually hear people say, I need more time to do research. I've analyzed deals, but nothing seems to pencil out. Or my personal favorite, I'm just waiting for the right time to get started. But underneath all that, the real reason? Something we just don't talk enough about. Fear. Fear of getting it wrong. Fear of choosing the wrong property, fear of losing money, and having to hear from friends and family, see, I told you to stick to your day job. If that sounds familiar, you're not alone. I've seen it over and over again with thousands of high-income earners we've trained. They're smart, they're capable, they're disciplined, but when it comes to something new, something that doesn't come with a guaranteed outcome, fear creeps in. And how does it show up? It shows up as hesitation. It shows up as indecision. It shows up as analysis paralysis. I've experienced it too. I'll be talking to my coach about a big goal, something that really excites me, but also scares me. And I'll start hesitating. I'll start making excuses. I'll say things like, it's not the right time. I've got way too many things on my plate. And every time, my coach sees right through it. She'll look me right in the eye and say, that's why you have to do it, because she knows what's really behind the excuses. And it's what most people miss. The excuses are just stories. They're made up. They're not even true. So instead of telling yourself a story that's not true, see the fear as an opportunity. The fear is telling you that what you're about to do actually matters and that it's going to make you better, a better version of yourself. So don't run from it, lean into it. Because in a moment, I'll show you why mistakes, the very thing you're afraid of, aren't just something to lean into, they're the very thing that accelerates your growth. They're the key to your success. Now let's talk about what happens next, because once you finally take that step and start investing, the thing you were most afraid of might actually happen. You might make that mistake, and that's not a bad thing. So let's say you do it. You finally take action. You move past the hesitation and you buy your first property. And then it happens. You make a mistake. Maybe you lose money. Maybe you choose the wrong market. That moment right there, that's the fork in the road that separates the people who achieve real success from the ones who maintain the status quo. Things don't get better, they stay the same. And what do most people do? Most people freeze. They start doubting themselves. They think, see, I knew I wasn't cut out for this. They mistake one failure as a reason to quit. But here's what I've learned after more than 25 years of investing. Mistakes aren't the end, they're speed bumps. They slow you down for a moment. They give you a chance to course correct, but they don't stop you unless you let them. And from there, you keep going. You keep pushing forward. You take every speed bump along the way and brush them off. And that's the difference between someone who builds long-term success and someone who's left feeling frustrated and jaded that they never achieved their goal. The ones who look back at their life and wish they took the other fork in the road. The best investors in the world, they don't just lean into mistakes. They move through them faster. They fail, they learn, they adjust, and they keep going, because every mistake is just feedback on what to do differently next time. And that's how they accelerate. They're not fearless, they're feedback driven. They don't try to avoid every bump in the road, they get moving. And the faster they learn what works and what doesn't, the faster they find their path. One of our friends put it best: successful people accelerate to fail. They fail faster, and they achieve success faster as well. So remember this, failure isn't deadly, giving up is. Giving up is the ultimate failure. And I learned this lesson the hard way during one of the most challenging times of my 25 years of investing. In a moment, I'll share how one bad decision during the 2008 crash really set me back and how that experience completely changed the way I invest today. One of the biggest mistakes I ever made as a real estate investor was buying 2 high-end condos in downtown Seattle. They were beautiful, brand new, great location, incredible water views. At the time, I already owned another condo just a block away, so buying 2 more felt like the next logical move. But what I didn't see back then was that the numbers really didn't work. It wasn't a great investment because I was betting on appreciation to make the investment work. From the beginning, the rental income didn't cover the mortgage, and as a result, the properties didn't cash flow, and I was losing money every month. And then the 2008 crash hit. Suddenly, rental demand dropped, people started downsizing, looking for cheaper housing. Those A-class luxury condos, they weren't in demand anymore. And I was left with expensive properties, high payments, and very few options for renting my units. And to make matters worse, the building I invested in had rental caps. This meant there was a limit on how many apartment units could be rented in the building at any one time. I knew about the rental caps, but I figured I could figure out a way around them, or if it became a problem, I could just sell the condos for a profit. But the Homeowners Association, or HOA, wasn't having it. They cracked down on owners who were renting their units and threatened to fine us. My plan to sell the property? Well, that plan went out the window with the 2008 crash because the property values dropped below what I paid for the property. Even if I were to sell for a loss, I was hit with another problem. The HOA sued the developer for construction defects. That made my condo units impossible to sell because no lender would lend to a buyer when there was a pending lawsuit. So I was stuck. stuck with high mortgage payments with no income coming in. So I did what I had to do. I picked up extra hospital shifts, sometimes 26 shifts a month, just to keep up with expenses and stay afloat. But I didn't quit, because even in the middle of the storm, I could still see the upsides. One of the biggest upsides, all the lessons I learned. I'll get to those in a bit. It also taught me the importance of thoroughly investigating the risks of investing. Most investors, even experienced ones, ignore the risks, or just as bad, minimize them. And learning how to evaluate risk made me a better investor. And that's the key. As long as you learn from your mistakes, you'll keep getting better. So what are the lessons I learned from investing in expensive A-class condos? These are the hard-earned lessons that still guide every deal I do today. And I'm sharing them with you so you can learn from them and avoid the mistakes I made. First, always buy for cash flow. If a property doesn't perform from day one, you're not investing. You're taking on unnecessary risk. You're counting on market appreciation to make you money. Cash flow is what gives you staying power when markets shift like they did in 2008. Second, be cautious with HOAs. They can change policies, limit rentals, or even ban them altogether. When that happens, you lose control. Third, A-class properties aren't always safer. In downturns, tenants move out of their luxury rentals and move into cheaper apartments. Go look at historical occupancy data and you'll see that this is true. As a result, we now focus on B and C-class properties. Fourth, get creative. When I realized that those condos weren't going to cash flow, I pivoted and converted them into furnished rentals. And this was long before Airbnb existed. That one move turned a losing situation into a lesson in innovation. Those lessons became the foundation of the strategy my wife and I use today. Once we shifted our focus to cash flow and control, we were able to build a portfolio that gave us financial freedom in just 3 years. And that acceleration didn't come despite the mistakes, it came because of them. Because every lesson I learned created clarity. It showed me what we had to do to succeed. And that's the real secret. Mistakes don't slow you down, they make you better, as long as you learn from them. And you don't need to be fearless. Fear is normal whenever you're doing something you've never done before. The key is, you take the step anyway. You decide you're done waiting. You're ready to learn by doing. And yes, maybe you'll make a mistake, but now you know that a mistake is just a speed bump. You learn from them and get better. And here's the thing, you don't have to do it alone. That's exactly why my wife and I created Zero to Freedom, to help high-income earners like you start the right way. Inside our course and community, we share our mistakes so you don't have to make the same ones. You get to learn from us and thousands of other investors who've been exactly where you are. Because success doesn't require perfection. It just requires movement, support, and the right framework. Thanks for watching. And if you know someone who's stuck, someone who might be waiting on the sidelines, please share this video with them. It might be exactly what they need to hear today. We'll see you in the next one.